I'm now at a point where I forgive Disney. I'm now at a point where I'm glad Disney bought Star Wars.
Yeah.
I can forgive them for the sequels.
I
now think we're at a point where there is more good than bad in Disney Star Wars.
All right, let's just think about this. No, sorry, because that's
Is that a terrible take?
Good morning, good afternoon.
Whatever time you're watching this, welcome to episode 4 of Fresh Takes. We're back.
We are back again. You can't get rid of us just yet. Yeah, we're back again. We're going to talk about some more bits and pieces to give you a little bit of a fruit box update, as it were, sort of as to where we're at with some bits and pieces. We've got some nice, exciting stuff.
Of
We've
course.
just had some bits come out as well, which is always good. I'm going to talk about our usual standards of film and television bits and pieces.
Sounds great. Let's go.
So the first one, if you are following our Instagram or our TikTok, you would have seen that we've recently just announced we've got another guest for Fresh Produce.
Yep, so Ebony is going to be joining us.
Ebony's going to be joining us.
Very exciting.
Really exciting. It's fantastic. We love Ebony. She, I used to know of previous job-wise, which is nice.
All Saints.
All Saints, big it up. So, but no, it's going to be fantastic. Really, really excited to get chatting with her and have another lovely live performance to showcase with you. A nice new bit of talent to showcase.
We'll be asking her a few questions. If you guys have any questions that you'd like us to ask her, then send them through. And yeah, she'll be doing a live exclusive performance for us, which is really exciting.
We won't tell you what that is yet. We'll leave her to do that for you. But no, it's really exciting. So that should be, I think, we'll be in a couple of weeks. Well, we're filming it next week, so that's exciting.
Time this is out, it should be out a week later.
Yes. Sorry, getting myself confused in terms of timing. But there we go. But it's exciting. And speaking of artists, we've just had the music video for When I Was Young come out.
Yeah, so you've obviously heard us talk about this project a lot, and Savannah a lot. Big fan of Savannah, we are. So yeah, the music video is now out, so please go check that out. Continue showing the song some love, but there'll be a link in the description to watch the music video that we have created, which is really exciting. Really exciting. Happy it's out.
Really labour of love, that one. It was really fantastic. We're so happy that we're glad that we can now showcase it with the world. But yeah, we're just excited to do that bit. I think that's it really in terms of obviously go and show the crowdfunder some love if you haven't already.
The crowdfunder is doing really well. Really pleased with how that's progressing. So we've nearly hit our production budget.
Very close.
Very close. So if we could reach that by
maybe the end of the month.
That'd be fantastic.
I think when we last recorded, the crowdfunder was coming towards an end, but we've since extended it.
Yes.
Just so it's been going really well, so we thought we might as well show.
Yeah, we've kind of pushed back the actual production of it, so that meant we could push back the actual crowdfunder as well. Yeah,
which is great for us. And I mean, it's just fantastic. We're getting a lot of support on it recently, and we're loving it, of course.
We're loving it,
We're loving it. It's just great to see. And what have we been up to?
Well, reason why I'm wearing this shirt, me and Sam have actually just been on holiday, which is why there might have been a bit of break in content. I went to Prague, and then Sam here met me in Budapest.
Yeah,
we had great fun. We'll leave it there.
We'll leave it there. I think.
The minds of your imagination.
Nothing bad happened, I'm sure, but the problem is we can't really remember. So that's probably why.
Beer is very cheap in Budapest. So we'll leave it at that.
If you get a chance to go and try Soproni or Basodi, please let us
let us know what you think.
Let us know. So speaking of comment, what was your favourite beer that you had in Budapest? Sorry, that's going really off topic for a film podcast, but.
Probably the Soproni. I think we had quite a lot of Soproni. I know the Basodi was the local one.
I liked the Basodi. I'm sure if there's any Hungarians watching, please correct.
They're both lovely.
Yeah, they're both fantastic. Please correct our pronunciations.
But probably a Soproni.
Soproni will always have us
in our heart.
A special place in our heart. If you've got any Soproni, please let us know, because we would love to have one more can. It was just perfection. But anyway.
But actually, sorry, speaking of, while I was in Prague, I don't know if you saw on our story, if you follow us, I checked out a church in Prague, which is really fascinating, and it's to do with film, hence why I mention it. Yes. If you've seen Anthropoid,
which I've seen
film.
Now.
Brilliant, because it's such an underrated film, such a unique war film as well, covering the Prague resistance and the Czech resistance to Nazi Germany. It's fantastic. It's got Cillian Murphy in it, Jamie Dornan.
Great performance from Jamie Dornan as well. I'm still hoping that he's our new Bond. I really am.
But it's a fantastic film, and it's 90%, I would say, just based on my knowledge, based on true fact. And I checked out the church while I was in Prague, and it's really fascinating, really moving, and it's a brilliant story. and I couldn't recommend the film enough. So go give it a watch.
It was such a great story. It's just it's a lovely. I mean, compared to a lot of war films, not to shame any others in particular, but it's just got such a nice grounded story to it, and it's got a really lovely tale of heart to it, which is just fantastic to see.
Just a different perspective,
definitely,
to a lot of war films as well.
I think the grandeur is slightly turned down, which is a bit more. Yeah, I mean, not to say that it's not action packed; it's filled with lots of great bits, but it doesn't feel. Oh, pardon me. As expansive or as wide scale. It feels just like a very personal story.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Let's talk about The Last of Us, because it's now about halfway through its run.
Yeah, so we obviously mentioned that in our last episode. Yeah. We are now caught up because if you didn't know, the last episode we recorded, I think we filmed the day before or the day before that. Yeah. For episode 2 came out. I'm not sure we're over that yet. No. We obviously kind of saw it coming. I don't think I thought it was going to come that soon.
I've played the game, so I know that I knew that it was going to happen, but I forget how suddenly it happened.
Yes, I was quite surprised it happened that early on.
I mean, it is the inciting incident of the second game, as it were, so it's not exactly... it wasn't exactly an unknown, but I think... The thing is, I haven't played the game now for probably, when did it come? 2020. It was the Christmas of 2020 I got it. So, and I played it then, and I haven't touched it since. Even though it is one of my favourites, it's just sat on the shelf going, that was perfection. I don't know if like you guys might be the same, but it's like when you watch something or read something for the first time, and you go, oh, that was amazing, and you just go, I want to keep that memory of it being so good. So it's a bit of a change watching the show. But I think, it's still, you forget how powerful that is.
Yeah, you do. I think episode 2 was just breathtaking, incredible, obviously very heartbreaking, but just brilliant. Yeah. Probably the best episode of TV I've watched since one of the last House of the Dragon episodes. I mean, HBO are just killing it, aren't they, really?
HBO, PlayStation Productions, I mean, the PlayStation Production guys are doing some quite interesting stuff. Apart from Uncharted, I thought that was a bit of a waste of time. But no, I think The Last of Us is really proving itself to be a fantastic translation of video game story. And I think that's the thing, though. I was speaking to my granddad actually. He watches lots of television in general. He's always been a big fan of Sky. And I came from work the other day, and he was watching the first series of it. And I was like, oh, do you know that this is a game? No, not at all. Didn't know. And he's just watching it as if it was the story itself. Yeah, I think that's the thing I quite enjoy about it, is because it's such a lovely, well-written story. On its own, it makes it's such nice viewing as a show, and I think it's exposing it to a whole other audience. Yeah, which is fantastic.
Completely. Yeah, and it's just been brilliant, hasn't it? I mean, even since episode 2, I know episode 2 was like a 10 out of 10, but even 3 and 4, both been brilliant. Bella Ramsey's been incredible, and her sort of new co-star, her love interest, I can't think of her name. She's been brilliant. I think she's taken up the responsibility.
Responsibility. I was going to say slack. That doesn't quite work.
But yeah, she's been fantastic. Bella Ramsey's obviously been incredible throughout, and there's been a few like surprise actors come in episode 3 and 4. Yeah, I found it's obviously just had a brilliant cast throughout and brilliant story. I would definitely recommend giving it a watch.
Is it Isabel? Sorry, it's the Isabel Merced. Sorry, I'm taking my time here, ladies and gentlemen. It's just because I have only just woken up and I haven't had any coffee yet. So
so she was in Transformers.
Transformers last.
Dora, that was it.
Dora the Explorer, Sicario.
So yeah, she's had a pretty good career for a young actress.
Instant Family, I quite like that one.
And she's been brilliant since episode 2. I'll leave it at that. I won't say what happened in case you haven't watched it. But
speaking of that Transformers film, that was actually part of it was filmed in my hometown. Funny enough, that was filmed out in Gosport. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was filmed in the Submarine Museum. Big up that. Sorry, that's just a weird little.
Oh, of course, I've been there. Of course it was.
You've been to the Submarine. You've been to the Submarine Museum.
I have,
Sorry, weird like stories.
Yeah, no, I have been there. Yeah, that rings a bell.
There we go. Yeah, but that's where I remember that was filmed whilst I was at school. I remember that was in year 11, I think.
But remind me, because you've played the games. Does she have like a love interest in the games?
Yes, she does.
Yeah, because I couldn't quite remember that.
She does indeed. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, one of my favourite bits about the game, actually, I think coming back to it from memory again. I haven't played it in 5 years or 4 and a bit years now. God, that's bad. I think I'm probably going to step back up. But they just got remastered onto PlayStation 5 actually. So
I've seen lots of adverts.
Yeah, I might get the remastered version.
I'm not surprised they've done that.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a weird like side take going on from there. Like it's just I think maybe release a third one because even though the second game finished in quite spectacular fashion, not to spoil it for you, but it would be great to see maybe a third part in that story. I think that'd be
absolutely
that would be the future. But anyway, that is the way we'll
move on from The Last of Us. It's been absolutely brilliant.
It's just been incredible.
Can't wait for more episodes of it. Since our last episode, obviously Andor has been ongoing. We are now up to episode 9, so we've just got the last 3 episodes left, which will be coming out next week, shortly after this podcast will be out. And again, it's just been brilliant. I mean, the first few episodes of the second season, I was a bit unsure of Cassian's sort of plot, his little side story. But apart from that, it's been breathtaking. It's been incredible. And I've come here to say, I haven't said this to you, I am now at a point where I forgive Disney. I'm now at a point where I'm glad Disney bought Star Wars. Yeah. I can forgive them for the sequels. Because I now think we're at a point where there is more good than bad in Disney Star Wars.
All right, let's just think about this. No, sorry, because
is that a terrible take?
It's not a terrible take.
Come on, we've got Andor. It's a fresh take. Rogue One. We've got Solo.
Andor, Rogue One. Solo was
last series of the Clone Wars.
Last series of the Clone Wars.
Rebels, I love.
Rebels is fine.
Mandalorian has been
hit and miss.
Pretty good on the.
I would say it's a 60%.
Yeah, that's
Book of
fair.
Book of Boba Fett was just
pretty average. Obi-Wan was pretty awful.
Obi-Wan was fair. Sorry, the thing is, I was speaking to somebody else about this the other day actually, and the things with Obi-Wan, a lot of it's really quite cool. Like the dynamic between him and Vader.
Yeah, it's good to have them back. Of course,
him Vader, fantastic. The just Obi-Wan on Tatooine is great, right? It's cool to see him as a Hurt, but then 3/4 like running around with Leia and going around whatever the planet was called. I can't even remember. Like they're just floating around. There's a fake Jedi with some magnets. It's like, oh, cool. I don't really care.
Yeah, I forgot.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
with it's again. That's the thing. There's
pretty bad, wasn't it?
There's so overall. There's so much about it that's forgettable, right?
Yeah.
And yes, there's some really cool scenes with seeing Vader at his peak power, as it were.
Even having Qui-Gon back was
Qui-Gon back was awesome, right? But that's the thing.
I really liked the portrayal of young Leia as well. Although a lot of it didn't really make sense plot-wise, I did quite like her portrayal.
Portrayal.
Sorry.
Portrayal. Sorry, that just caught me off guard. I just think the problem with the most of the Disney stuff is there's a few really great scenes that feel like fantastic fan service, and you go, "Oh, that's really cool," and then the rest of it's just a bit, Like I controversially, I really like The Last Jedi. I think it's a really cool film. I think there's some really great scenes. I think there's some really great scenes, and yes, while they're going off to a Las Vegas planet, it could be completely cut out of the film and it have no real relevance. It was a experimental jump in that series, and I think if maybe they had the chance to follow through after,
I don't think you're completely wrong. I think if all 3 of the sequels had been made by
the people that were originally intending to make the sequels, I think you can say what you want.
There was just no continuity. There was no rhythm flow between the 3.
The Force Awakens felt like watching A New Hope again,
which wasn't a bad thing.
I don't know. It's just a bit. I've seen The Force Awakens about 3 times, and I've fallen asleep consistently after the first viewing, because I don't feel there's anything particularly interesting actually going on in The Force Awakens.
Yes, I don't know. I disagree with that. I think Poe Dameron was such a great introduction of character. John Boyega's character.
John Boyega, fantastic.
Even Daisy Ridley's. But again, you're right. They butchered all 3 of them.
They just wasted them, didn't they? Like Rey.
In The Force Awakens, I was so excited to see, Poe Dameron, Rey.
Yeah.
Finn. Sorry, it's Finn.
Yeah.
I forgot his FN2187. Of course it is.
Yeah.
But those 3 characters were just brilliant. Brilliant introductions, but they ruined them.
That's the thing. You get set up with these 3 quite interesting, quite cool characters, right? Like, an ex-stormtrooper, Rey, that I love the mystery behind. I mean, when they were coming out, I really quite enjoyed the mystery about...
And that was genius, really.
Rey's parents were in her family.
And that was just genius of Disney to
really
not
cool.
know where she came from.
Yeah. And I think it was quite, and admittedly, it was wasted and thrown away.
Yeah.
And she just at the end kind of goes, "Oh, I'm Ray Skywalker. I'm Ray Skywalker." It's like, oh, great, that's just a load of crap, isn't it? But no, just the thing is, my problem is that you get the Force Awakens just feels like quite a boring yet and familiar setup, right? The Last Jedi goes and does something different, which admittedly wasn't loved by everybody, and some of it, yes, could be better. But there is some really great moments in the Last Jedi. The fight in the throne room, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I think Snoke feels like quite a threatening villain throughout the entirety of that film. You know, so I mean, Luke in that film was a bit. But you know that the end scene where they're fighting in the desert with the red sand, it's really cool. Quite cool and stunning, right?
Good concept as well.
Great concept,
but they just didn't build on these things.
They never built on these
even
things.
Snoke being like a clone or a puppet. Like if you watch all of Star Wars, if you've watched Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch, you understand that the whole cloning thing actually makes sense. But they just didn't build enough story around it.
They didn't do anything with it.
Palpatine's back.
Yeah, and that's what really annoyed me about. I mean, say what you want about what.
There's just no exposition.
What's the last one called? Sorry, I've tried to blank it out of my mind. The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, I've just tried to blank that out of my mind, I think. I remember I was so excited to see it, and I thought this was going to be great, this was going to be a real... And it's probably one of my most hated films ever. I don't like it, I don't like anything about it, actually. I don't think there's any sort of... It all just feels a bit like... It feels like they've tried to put out a chip fire. Go, oh, no one liked all this. Here's some familiar stuff, and you go,
yeah.
And it's all a bit wasted and a bit weird. So I'm not forgiving. The long and short,
you don't agree with my take.
I don't agree with the take because the problem is that a lot of the Disney stuff, like I said, probably about 5 minutes ago after going on our sequel side story, is there is lots of great scenes of fan service, but there's also lots of wasted, quite meandering stories. Which
I completely agree, but I think overall now, I'm happy to say I think Disney have done more good than bad.
I mean, I'm not saying...
Just because of Andor. Because Andor's just been incredible, and people will enjoy and love Rogue One more, which gives me a lot of happiness, because I thought Rogue One is
fantastic.
Probably my favourite Star Wars film. Not the best.
But
I don't think it's the best, but... Definitely my favourite.
I think it's good, to be fair. I do like Rogue One. Again,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, the thing is, because we were talking about Star Wars a lot when we were on holiday, and I've rewatched all of them, apart from the sequels, because I'm not of that persuasion. They don't count. But, like, we watched, because I started watching whilst we were sat having a bit of chill-out time, I watched Revenge of the Sith again. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's really good, isn't it? Attack of the Clones, which is still pretty good. Phantom Menace gets a lot of hate at the time, and I can sort of see why. But
yeah, I still love Phantom Menace.
But Phantom's good fun.
Yeah.
And the originals are the originals. Like, you know, there's no...
Can't fault them, really.
Well, you know, there's definitely ways you could probably pick holes in them, but I'm not going to.
Want to
I'm not going to, because we could probably be here for a few hours, is the long and the short of it. But there we go. So we've gone on a long Star Wars
but basically,
side.
Andor's incredible. You should give it a watch. It's absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see how they're going to close it off. Season 2. I'm sure in our next episode I can give you my review of the season,
and I'll probably be caught up by then. So that's I think that's the problem with that. So I've not yet seen quite a lot of Andor. I've watched the very first episode of the second series, and that's it. So, but pardon me, sorry.
You'll get there.
I will get there in time, but you know, I think it's going to be. I've heard it's quite brutal.
Oh yeah,
actually, I've been heard the last episode's been quite.
It's very dark, and it's very. Is again like The Last of Us. It's heartbreaking. It's very moving. It's very gritty and dark, and just very very good.
Very very good. But moving on. Sorry, God, I don't know what's happened. I've had too much water too quickly this morning. I want to talk about the Thunderbolts, but not the film itself. So that's what I don't know if people have been keeping up with the Prime material. We've had the Thunderbolts coming out, which is the new next installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has got the idea is it's all the ragtag group of your favourite sort of friendly, not heroes. So you've got on the team from memory. Let's go. You've got Yelena, who is Black Widow's sister, on the team. You've got the Red Guardian, played by the fantastic David Harbour. I say what you want about his personality. I think it's quite funny in general. You've got Ghost. You've got Taskmaster. You've got US agents. And am I forgetting anybody? And you've got Bucky as well. Obviously, Cole, that was bad from me. But there we go. But I haven't seen the film yet, and I'm actually off to see it after we filmed this podcast. So that's not what I'm here to properly talk about. But I did want to talk about is the marketing's been quite interesting for the film. So throughout the promotion of it, it's been known as the Thunderbolts with a little asterisk.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen like a little asterisk.
Ding. Yeah, little ding. And that's been quite interesting. And I found this to be almost a bit of a, are they going to change the name? What's going on? And the big reveal, which I think, not to spoil, I mean, I think it was pretty much spoiled by Marvel pretty much about after opening weekend. But they are now, dun-dun-dun, the New Avengers. Oh! Interesting. But it got me thinking, like, that draws in a whole other audience, right? Because the thing is, I mean, I've read lots and lots and lots of comics. I knew the Thunderbolts were, and I think this new adaptation of the Thunderbolts maybe is very MCU appropriate, shall we say. But to the general audience, if you're going to say, do you want to go and watch the Thunderbolts, they'll probably go, nah.
Well, yeah.
I said to you the other day, I'm
going
to go to see Thunderbolts.
Audience side.
Yeah.
You're probably more of a Marvel fan. I wasn't bothered about seeing Thunderbolts. I didn't really know what it is.
But would you argue
Bucky's in it?
Bucky's in it, yeah.
Apart from that, I didn't know any of the characters.
But are you more excited now to go and watch? Oh, I forgot US Agent as well. Sorry. But
you did say it.
I did say US Agent, yeah. But
no, you're right. I probably would give it a watch now.
Do you now fancy going and seeing the New Avengers?
I probably wouldn't go to the cinema, but once it comes out on Disney Plus, I'd probably give it a watch.
I don't know. I think you'd be tempted by the New Avengers. But that's my point, right? Yeah. Is it draws in a whole other audience that maybe wouldn't consider going to watch the Thunderbolts asterisks, but probably would go and consider watching
the New Avengers. It's a very good point.
It's a really good. I think it's quite interesting, right? And it got me thinking. Of other films that have changed their name since release. I mean, admittedly, this is a slightly different take, right? Because it's not been, it's not like like a lot of these ones are now pre-production titles of what maybe the original source material was called. But I think it's just a very interesting move from Marvel because it is bringing up an entirely different audience to the Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
I think, whatever the new perspective on the MCU is. I mean, yes, it hasn't been on top form for a few years, but like a football team, I will support them to through its highs and lows. Of course. But it's just, I think it's so interesting to see, and I think it's a very clever move.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's a clever move, bringing in a new audience, but then why didn't they call it that in the first place?
Well, why would you want to maybe confuse?
I can't imagine the cast of the originals would be too happy about this either. Like Chris Evans, RDJ,
it's not
Scarlett Johansson, all of those.
They will always be the Avengers, though. Won't
Yeah,
they will always be the legacy Avengers, the original team.
Yeah, is it almost not worrying actually where Marvel is that they feel like they need to rebrand the Avengers only 5 years after?
6 years now.
6 years after their last major release.
Well, would you not say I think it's just quite a cool... They're the new Avengers, you don't think about,
Can't judge it until I see it, I
mean, if you think about it, like if we're likening it to a football team, you can't always have, Ronaldo.
The glory days,
you can't always have... Peter Crouch, and give me some more football.
We're Portsmouth fans. I love how you've just gone from Ronaldo to Peter Crouch. If Crouch is watching this, we're big fans. Crouch and Defoe, iconic Barclays striker partnership, that is.
Yeah, or but you can always have your new favourites in like Colby Bishop. See, yeah, I've got ball knowledge. Yeah. I've not got a lot of ball knowledge, as you can probably tell. But anyway, it's you can't always have your glory days, your highlights in there.
That's
right?
a fair point.
So the New Avengers is not exactly the Avengers, right? And I'm sure that's. I think from what I've been told, not to spoil, I think that's what one of the post-credit scenes is about.
Okay.
In rough translation,
right.
But there we go. I only caught it briefly because I was like, I still want to go in with some surprise, but it's all a bit of a. I think it's quite a clever move, and I think it's interesting them doing it. But it got me thinking, like I said earlier, about films that have since changed their names. So some of them I think we may have talked about before, some of them we might not know. I think I've watched every film on this list that I've come up with. Pardon me, but films that have changed their name since release. So have you ever seen the film Edge of Tomorrow? Tom Cruise.
I have.
Which was originally the original manga that it's based on. The Japanese sci-fi manga was called All You Need Is Kill.
Okay.
which I can see why that was changed.
Is this the one where he
dies and then it
wakes up? Yeah, that's actually a really good film.
It's not bad, but it was also called in other markets Live, Die, Repeat.
Yes, I remember the poster for Live, Die, Repeat.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Because I went to see it at the cinema. I'm sure it was Live, Die, Repeat when we went to see it.
There you go.
I'm sure, or at least the poster said Live, Die, Repeat.
So they've changed. It's been changed, I think, a few times, but I think it is now, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think Live, Die, Repeat's a better name.
I agree. Completely agree.
I would say that. Probably the one maybe most relevant to us here at Fresh Takes, Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Star Wars was always called Star Wars, but obviously retrospectively, it was renamed Episode 4 when Empire Strikes Back came out.
Oh, I see.
And Return of the Jedi. Yeah. They were then retitled to 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Colon. Not Edge of Tomorrow. Star Wars, Edge of Tomorrow. Luke would be really surprised, wouldn't he? Oh, back in Tatooine! What's going on? But the one else was the 2016 Ghostbusters, which has now since been retroactively titled. So do you remember that one? It was with Kirsten Wiig.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the all-female lineup in 2016.
Yes, no, I remember.
Not as bad as I think it was slated at the time. It's not perfect.
I'm not sure I watched it, to be fair.
You didn't miss much. I do quite enjoy the Ghostbusters, but it's not a film I remember or look back on too fondly. But it's since now it was saddled later with the title Answer the Call. Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
Right.
As a bit of a, I think, kind of extension.
To separate it, yeah.
Separate it. And you've got Afterlife now, which has since come.
Yeah. I have seen that one, weirdly enough.
What do you think?
I can't really remember. I can't. It's one of those films where it was kind of on the background.
It was on the background.
I can't remember it being that great.
But I think that was quite interesting because I think it being, it almost it separates it from the originals.
Yeah.
It also separates it from being a bit of a reboot, which it kind of was.
Yeah.
Sort of soft. Again, I haven't seen it since I watched it in the cinema, which was pretty much 10 years ago. So. Forgive me, my memory on the film is slightly part, but from memory, it was almost a soft reboot.
Yeah.
Into the Ghostbusters universe. So I think having it with that Answer the Call title now sort of separates it quite clearly. A film that has two of my favourite actors in it, actually, Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley.
Oh yeah.
Which was originally titled "Can a Song Save Your Life?" It was a film that went to lots of festivals. It was at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Okay.
But to general release, it was then renamed Begin Again.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just another example. The one that I did want to talk about, because it's a film that I think gets a little bit slept on in general, because I think it's quite good, is Hancock.
I've watched Hancock again. I can't really comment on it. I can't really remember it too well. I remember it being an enjoyable movie, but
Will Smith in that film's fantastic. And John also clipped me out the other day. This is a weird aside. Brick from the Middle is in the film. I don't know. You probably never saw the middle, but it was a big US sitcom that used to be shown on the Sky.
Middle,
yeah. Brick from the Middle is in it, and he's really young in it, and he tells Hancock to get off his arse. So as he's sleeping on a park bench.
So what did that used to be called then?
That used to be originally called. So it was originally called in 1996. Tonight He Comes.
Right. Hancock's a better title.
Hancock is a better title, but it was then changed to John Hancock.
Oh, right. Also had multiple
So it's had multiple titles. This was in the early 2000s and then eventually being shortened to Hancock in production. Yeah. So, I think, there's a few examples on there of titles that have gotten better over time.
Yeah.
And obviously the ones that have been retitled for a reason, like with Star Wars to keep it more in line with franchises. I think that's maybe something that will happen. I think that has happened retrospectively quite a lot. Is now ones that are being not forced to fit, because that's the wrong way, but to fall more in line. Sorry, is the best term, with their other surrounding films.
Yeah. So actually, on that, I really love how Rogue One and Solo don't follow the same format because they're not part of trilogies. They're their own separate
entities.
And that's why it's Solo a Star Wars story, Rogue One a Star Wars story. I really like that because it just distances it themselves slightly from the main trilogies, which I think's smart.
I think the shows
and even the soundtrack and there's little differences even in the editing style and stuff like that, which just shows it's just slightly separate to the main trilogies.
Are the series named as well? This was something that's just come to my head as well. Like, if you think of like Ahsoka, which we should have mentioned earlier, actually. Speaking of,
yeah.
Great Star Wars shows. Ahsoka was pretty good, actually.
Ahsoka's been good so far. I think it's still got a way to go. Obviously,
still got quite a way to
get to properly kick off. I'd say in
but,
Ahsoka.
Yes, but very good from what we've seen so far of it. But are the series like Obi-Wan, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett? Are they Star Wars stories, or are they just I think they're just as they are.
I think they're as they are because they're series and not films.
Not films, yeah. But
not getting a cinematic release, I guess is
no. That's probably it, isn't it? Anyway, there we go. I think
that's all we've got time for.
That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, we're going to be running out of time.
Yeah, but just a late announcement. This is our episode 4. So far, we've only been uploading onto YouTube. I'm now going to start releasing all the episodes from the first episode onto Spotify, Amazon, so you can listen. If you don't want to see our
faces and you just want to hear,
just listen along.
And you can hear our painful voices instead.
Yeah, so. And by the same right, if you're listening on one of those platforms and you want to see our beautiful face,
come and have a look.
Go on YouTube and we'll be there.
We will be there. We are surrounding.
We'll be on all platforms.
We're on all platforms. As always, show some love to our fantastic social media stuff. So we've got our Instagram, which is
Fruitbox Productions.
Same on TikTok here as well.
Same handle.
So yeah, just go and keep supporting the crowdfunder. Stay tuned for our fantastic stuff with Ebony coming very soon. Yeah. And as always, we'll probably be back in about a couple of weeks. So we're never far away. But thank you so much for watching, guys.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure as always.
Goodbye.